Breaking today, Prince William's fury as the British royal family is plunged into a new nightmare over the latest Jeffrey Epstein files release, with the heir to the throne now believing his father, King Charles, has not done enough to contain the scandal and deal with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and his wife Sarah Ferguson until it's too late. On a special edition of Outspoken today, we'll break down the shocking new claims against the Duke of York, who you could see riding as per normal in Windsor, despite being accused of murder, with new sex trafficking evidence, and what insiders say is now the inevitability of a police investigation. We'll also examine why Meghan Markle has seemingly got away with her involvement in the scandal, despite being asked to give evidence on behalf of the deceased accuser, Virginia Giuffre. Joining me to break down all angles in a fair, consistent and independent manner you simply will not get from the MSM on this story. They're corrupted, by the way, because they are throughout these files themselves. Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, and independent journalist Lauren the Insider. So, look, there are millions of files that have been released. Millions. We are all still digging through them, but they do include these shocking new Epstein videos of him quite literally chasing young women around a kitchen as if they are animals. Their faces have been covered in the black to protect their identities. But for the British monarchy, as these new front pages, which have been utterly damning over the past 48 hours evidence, this is now a full-blown crisis. Epstein invited to the palace. Andrew must reveal all on Epstein, says Starmer. Creepy crawler. There's worse to come. Shame on you. Look, I say all of this as a monarchist. I say all of this as someone who wants this great institution to be preserved. And Brittany, we will, of course, get into all of the details during this special edition. But let's kick off with my new reporting that Prince William believes his father has left the British royal family vulnerable here. He's got a point on King Charles, hasn't he? Surely this isn't a time for just keep calm and carry on. It's a full-blown crisis.
It is, Dan. And I have been saying for a while, the keep calm and carry on mentality is just no longer working in this modern era to some extent. I think it works in certain situations, but this Andrew thing is just getting worse and worse. Every time new documents come out, every time we get a little bit more from Andrew in all these Epstein files, it just gets worse and worse. And the problem is the British royal family really hasn't cut the ties. They finally stripped him of his title, but I think right now it should be a talk of removing him from the line of succession and potentially his children and grandchildren as well. I think there needs to be consequences here because unfortunately, this behavior started decades ago. This is not something that just started within the last 5 years. This is a decades of buildup. And the British royal family, if it is not careful, it's going to end in disaster, especially looking forward to Harry and Meghan in the future. They'll go down a similar path in some way or another.
Lauren, do you agree that the king needs to do something here? That William is right, that at the moment the British monarchy remains vulnerable because of these shocking revelations. And you saw the headline there, worse to come. Videos, according to Elon Musk, Lauren. Videos of many men with these young girls, Musk says.
There is a lot worse to come. I've been up every night since the files dropped, and I've found numerous just shocking details, Dan, and the mainstream media have stayed silent on those. The palace is in crisis and everything makes sense. When you look at the timeline of how Prince William has acted, he has been removing himself from the inner toxicity for some time. He is now completely independent with Edelman PR. And this is I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, Dan, because this isn't just one bad apple. I'm afraid to say Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been protected by the king and by the palace for decades. And watching that video of Jeffrey Epstein, I genuinely feel like I'm on the verge of tears, because as a society, we have seen our mainstream media bow to pressure from money, power, and influence from the palace. And we have seen these victims, some of which are no longer alive, gaslit, bullied, manipulated. The fear that they must have felt and for the world to smear them, it just breaks my heart. I find it absolutely disgusting. And King Charles has not gone far enough. He should have acted the day he put that crown on. There was enough evidence to prove consistently exactly who Sarah and Andrew were and are.
And yet the MSM, they're still gaslighting us. They're still doing the King's PR bidding. I mean, I couldn't believe this from the Daily Telegraph over the weekend. By axing Andrew promptly, the King may have saved the monarchy. Well, I'm sorry. Charles did not axe Andrew promptly. Can we just talk about the facts here? As I posted in response, the MSM Royal wrote a spin in regards to the King and Andrew is just bullshit. Charles did not axe his younger brother. He U-turned after 2 weeks because Prince William told him the monarchy was at stake. William effectively axed Andrew, and the historical record on this matters. But let's get to some of the detailed revelations from the new Epstein files dropped, where Epstein offered super sperm Andrew, a 26-year-old woman, in a fresh horror for Buckingham Palace. Tom Sykes reports the correspondent includes arrangements for a facial in New York, a guest list showing Andrew due to attend a dinner with Epstein at his home, a plan for an intimate Buckingham Palace meal, and an apparent request for Epstein's views on a restricted Afghanistan investment paper. So, of course, it's not just the sex, there's the big money aspect to this. However, in the most damning set of messages from 2010, so just remember at this point, Epstein was a convicted paedophile. He had gone to jail for sex trafficking children by the time these emails were being sent. Epstein proposes introducing Andrew to a Russian woman visiting the UK, writing to a contact saved as the Duke. The then convicted sex abuser said, "I have a friend who I think you might enjoy having dinner with. Her name is Irina, and she will be in London from 20 to 24. The reply from Andrew read, "Of course, I am in Geneva until the morning of the 22nd, but would be delighted to see her. Will she be bringing a message from you? Please give her my contact details to get in touch." It was signed off HRH, the Duke of York KG. Epstein then added another message describing her as 26, Russian, clever, beautiful, trustworthy, and yes, she has your email. Now, another thread from September 2010 captures Andrew inviting Epstein to Buckingham Palace. He promises lots of privacy for a dinner. Epstein replies that he wants private time, but is currently with Sarah, Sue, and Vera, and asks if he should bring them along to add some life. Andrew answers with a one-word email, time, ? The files also refer to Andrew featuring on a guest list for a dinner with Epstein in New York, and to Epstein arranging a facial for him while he was in the city. In 2010, Andrew wrote to Epstein that he was really looking forward to seeing him and said there were some interesting things to discuss and plot. Separate correspondents suggest Andrew sent Epstein a confidential document outlining investment opportunities in Afghanistan. Now, when you actually come to exactly how the palaces are involved in this sex trafficking, over the weekend, there has been shocking new revelations from the BBC of a new victim. Lauren, the Metropolitan Police now, if they do not decide to investigate, given the extremity of these accusations, are now effectively admitting that there is two-tier justice in the United Kingdom, that if you are a royal, you will not be investigated, because there is absolutely no reason for them to launch an investigation. And by the way, if you're innocent, Andrew, you will be cleared. Do you remember, Lauren? I know about this. There were false allegations made up against me, and they were complete lies, a tissue of lies. encouraged by Prince Harry. Well, I was investigated, okay? Because that's how due process works. It is a hellish experience, but given the level of evidence here, how on earth can the British police continue to say there's nothing to see here, folks?
Well, there's been so much evidence for them to investigate Andrew Mountbatten Windsor for years. We live in a two-tier society. Blue blood do not stand to the same law as we do, sadly. And I have no doubt there will be some performative investigation opened. But at the end of the day, we need to be asking the questions. How has this been allowed to happen on royal grounds for decades? Because within these files, I have seen with my own eyes and gone through some of them. Buckingham Palace was used like Soho House. It was used as a networking venue. And that was where the likes of Ghislaine, Sarah, Andrew, Epstein leveraged their position. They brought very vulnerable people in, if you look at some of the evidence. And at this point, I think they've absolutely lost the right for any of us to say allegedly, because at the end of the day, we've had no transparency. We've had Andrew sit in Buckingham Palace with Emily Maitlis for the Newsnight interview and lie. He claimed he had no recollection of meeting Virginia Giuffre. However, we have emails and proof where he is asking people to dig up dirt on her afterwards, after he had met her. So we have been lied to, and this is our tax money. Our tax money has been used when Andrew was trade envoy. This has happened on royal land. Royal Lodge, he didn't keep up with any of the maintenance of it. Our tax money has been used to shield Andrew and his disgraceful behaviour. I'm absolutely sickened.
Now, there is a huge change in tone going on, Brittany, from the British government on this, and this could be highly significant for Andrew. Indeed, the Royalist Substack reports big trouble for Andrew as PM Starmer tells him to surrender to US authorities for questioning. Now, he describes this as an astonishing break with precedent, and it does mean huge trouble for Andrew. This is what the Prime Minister said. Firstly, I always approach this question with the victim of Epstein in mind. Epstein's victims have to be the first priority. Whether there should be an apology, that's a matter for Andrew. But yes, in terms of testifying, I've always said anybody who's got information should be prepared to share that information in whatever form they're asked to do that, because you can't be victim-centered if you're not prepared to do that. Now, Tom Sykes goes on. There also seems to be prima facie reasonable grounds to suspect from these emails that Andrew was involved in sex trafficking, which under UK law is defined by the Modern Slavery Act 2015 as arranging or facilitating the travel of another person with a view to that person being exploited. Exploitation includes sexual exploitation, meaning that the person is subjected to sexual activity when consent is absent, or where the activity is induced through coercion, deception, abuse of power, or the exploitation of vulnerability. So, Brittany, it's all well and good Starmer talking about America. I mean, there's obviously potentially laws broken here in the United Kingdom. But the most significant thing, Brittany, is that he has gone public with this at all. There is a long-standing tradition that prime ministers just don't talk about this stuff. Like, look at all of the constitutional crisis in regards to Megxit. The prime ministers would always say, this is a matter for the royal family. So in breaking that tradition, it, I think, does provide some type of illustration of how much trouble Andrew could be in and how much political pressure could make a difference here in terms of potential police investigation.
And you are definitely right here, because what could be happening and what is happening is that Andrew is really delving into the realm of criminal behavior, or at least alleged criminal behavior. And so that is an aspect where you can't just hide behind the shield of the monarchy really anymore, because there are severe implications. I think especially when taxpayer dollars are involved, there is a demand and a need for Andrew to let's say, be held accountable in one way or another, but we just don't even know what that would look like. Even if he went to the United States, he could spend his entire time, every time he's asked a question, going, due to my, well, he's not an American citizen, but there's a Fifth Amendment where you can just say, I have the right not to incriminate myself, so I'm not going to say anything. And that's what they answer for every question. So that's definitely not going to be, I think, the answers people want. But I think Keir Starmer coming out and going, yes, we need to look into this. Andrew is not above the law, I think is really critically important. And I think it's a critical, important step for the monarchy as well to make public that, yes, we operate as representatives of the government, but if one of our members is becoming or engaged in criminal activity, they are not above the law. They are have the ability to go to trial, do all the things that every other citizen has a right to, but they will be investigated. And I think there does deserve to be some investigations, but all of this is a little bit nebulous as well. So I don't even know how far that will go, how many people will say if they can prove anything. That's a big question here too. But I think there's definitely a lot here to investigate. And I think ever most critically, this needs to be stopped from happening again. What is the monarchy going to put in place to prevent another Andrew in the future?
Well, indeed. And this is where you get to the next really controversial conversation. And it's about the line of succession. Because we, of course, have a line of succession that not only Andrew remains in, but Harry remains in. Archie and Lily remain in. And the Conservative Party, this is what is most fascinating, the main party of opposition in the United Kingdom and its Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has now publicly called for Andrew to be removed from the line of succession, which of course throws open a whole load of questions about royal tradition and actually even the meaning of royalty itself. And this becomes a huge moment because, of course, I agree. Actually, but then are we questioning hereditary monarchy altogether? Certainly, though, I would say my position is consistent because I will say it again. I do not believe that Archie and Lily should be in the line of succession either because we are not certain about the circumstances surrounding their births. That's before you even get to the point that they have not even visited the United Kingdom for years and are being raised as Americans.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Andrew should have been removed from the line of succession when the titles were removed. And a deal should not have been cut between King Charles and Andrew to protect Beatrice and Eugenie. They're grifters. A lot of them need to come off everything because they can't be trusted. They have proved time and time again. Those girls have had money drop into their accounts from Sarah and Andrew's shady contacts. None of them operate with the crown and the Commonwealth and the public at the center of what they're doing. They operate for their own greed and they operate against the very monarchy that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, are trying desperately to salvage. And when it comes to Harry, you start to think now, what have Harry and Meghan got on King Charles? Because to me, it makes absolutely no sense that King Charles has been so weak when it comes to Harry and when it comes to Andrew. Let's remember the statement released on the 17th of October 2025 about Andrew was by Andrew. So everything has been performative. I know for a fact that King Charles wanted to use Prince William to appeal to people to, gain some more support for the monarchy. But then the next week, he wants to be seen like he's furious with Andrew. This simply isn't true. King Charles has not only tolerated Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor and Sarah, but he's done too little, too late, and we can see right through him.
A major controversy surrounding the British royal family is once again attracting international attention. This time, the focus is on Prince Andrew, the continuing fallout surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, and claims that the latest developments could create fresh pressure on King Charles and Prince William. At the same time, Meghan Markle has been pulled into the conversation because of claims about whether she could potentially possess information relevant to allegations involving Andrew. Some commentators have described the situation as a serious crisis for the monarchy, while others warn that several of the most dramatic claims circulating online remain unverified. So what do we actually know? Why is Prince William being described as furious? What could the latest Epstein-related revelations mean for Andrew and the royal family? And where does Meghan Markle fit into this story? Today, we're going to break it all down and separate established information from allegations and speculation. Let's begin. Prince Andrew has remained one of the most controversial figures associated with the modern British royal family. His relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and the allegations surrounding Epstein have continued to generate public scrutiny long after Andrew stepped back from official royal duties. The controversy has also created difficult questions for the monarchy because Andrew remains a member of the royal family, even though he no longer performs official public duties. For critics of the institution, the Andrew controversy represents a broader question about accountability. They ask whether members of powerful families receive different treatment from ordinary people when serious allegations emerge. For supporters of the monarchy, however, the situation must be approached carefully, because allegations and associations should not automatically be treated as proof of criminal conduct. That distinction becomes extremely important as we examine the latest claims. The latest wave of discussion has been driven by renewed public interest in material associated with Jeffrey Epstein. The phrase Epstein files is often used broadly to describe documents, correspondence, records, testimony, and other material connected to investigations and legal proceedings. But the existence of someone's name or image in a document does not automatically establish criminal involvement. That is an important point that is sometimes lost when sensational headlines spread online. In Andrew's case, his previously documented association with Epstein is already a matter of significant public record. The continuing question is what additional information, if any, the release or discussion of further material actually establishes. The headline claims that Prince William is furious about the situation. That certainly creates a powerful hook. But there is an important distinction between a commentator saying William is furious and William actually making such a statement publicly. The available discussion portrays William as someone who has taken a tougher approach toward Andrew than some other members of the royal family. Commentators therefore interpret the latest controversy through the broader question of how William wants the monarchy to be perceived. As the future king, William has a strong interest in the institution maintaining public confidence. However, unless William himself confirms his private feelings, claims about his emotional reaction should be presented as reported or speculative rather than established fact. The controversy also puts King Charles under renewed scrutiny. Charles has already faced numerous challenges during his reign, and the continuing controversy surrounding Andrew creates another difficult public relations issue. The question for the monarchy is not simply what Andrew does personally. It is also how the institution responds when one of its members becomes associated with a major controversy. Critics argue that stronger action is necessary to protect the reputation of the monarchy. Others believe Andrew has already been removed from official duties and that the legal system, rather than public opinion, should determine responsibility for criminal allegations. That disagreement lies at the heart of the wider debate. Now we come to the part of the story involving Meghan Markle. This is where the discussion becomes particularly sensitive. Commentators have raised the possibility that Meghan could potentially have information relevant to questions surrounding Andrew. This discussion has previously included comments from attorney David Boies concerning whether Meghan might possess useful information in connection with legal proceedings involving Virginia Giuffre and Andrew. But there is a critical distinction here. The suggestion that someone could potentially have relevant information is not the same as alleging that the person participated in wrongdoing. There is also a difference between knowing someone, encountering someone socially, and having knowledge of criminal activity. Those distinctions should not be ignored. The online conversation sometimes turns speculation into certainty. That is particularly dangerous when allegations concern serious criminal matters. The material discussed in the video does not establish that Meghan Markle participated in Epstein's crimes. Nor does it establish that she knowingly assisted any wrongdoing connected with Andrew. Some commentators have questioned whether she could have information about Andrew, but that is fundamentally different from claiming she was involved in criminal conduct. Unless direct evidence or an authoritative finding establishes otherwise, these claims should remain clearly labeled as allegations or speculation. That distinction protects both accuracy and fairness. This story also illustrates a broader problem with coverage of the Epstein scandal. Epstein interacted with numerous wealthy, famous, and politically connected individuals. Being photographed with someone, appearing in the same social circles, or having one's name mentioned in a document does not automatically establish participation in a crime. Every individual claim has to be evaluated on its own evidence. That principle applies equally to members of the royal family and to Meghan Markle. The public deserves transparency, but transparency also requires careful examination of evidence rather than automatically accepting the most dramatic interpretation. The bigger question is whether the continuing Andrew controversy could become a serious institutional crisis. Now we'd like to hear from you.